got to continue to play the trust game on the platforms that you're given. You can't be recommended by AI in the future. You're going to be in big trouble.
All right, folks, I'm excited, very excited for this episode, because today we're diving deep with someone who doesn't just talk about trust in marketing. He's built a career teaching companies how to earn it like their business depends on it, because it does. This is Marcus Sheridan here. I know him well. I've followed his work for over 15 years, ever since he was one of the most successful HubSpot customers I'd ever met when I was onboarding customers at HubSpot, teaching our agency partners how to be more inboundy and how to sell inbound better. I've seen him become a best-selling author, worldwide keynote speaker, and he's the guy behind the book. If you don't know it already, you don't have your copy, They Ask You Answer. It's been through a couple of editions, and the latest permutation of this, called Endless Customers, is dropping this month. So it's an exciting time for Marcus, the Impact team, evangelizing this new direction. And this is a guide that will help. If you haven't checked out this book before or heard about it, it's going to help teams ditch outdated strategies and build brands that buyers actually believe in, folks. So if you've ever launched a campaign, hosted a customer event, or tried to grow your pipeline with partnerships, it's stuff that you folks know I talk about, only to hear crickets, this is the one for you. Marcus has been in the trenches. I've worked with him at past agencies. He helped transform a lot of how our agency had gone to market, the services that we sold, and how we helped customers. It's been awesome. So Marcus, this feels like a little bit of a homecoming, getting the band back together, man, to be with you here, talking about how this is all shaping up in 2025 and beyond now.
Couple HubSpot OGs here having having a chat, which is great. But it's like I know you feel this way too, Nick. I've seen more change in the last 2 years, certainly since November 2022, than I saw in probably what was the previous 15. And so it's really wild, and it's a very relevant time to have a conversation, and that's too why the new book had to come out, because there's rapid change.
Good. Let's start there. What's going on out there, Marcus? Customer acquisition feels tougher than ever, and what is it from your view why so many businesses are feeling like their old playbooks for content, for how they sell, for how they market, are falling flat? And what's this saying about the modern buyer and what we need to do?
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. There's a lot of directions that we could take this, but ultimately, as buyers, we want information more than we've ever wanted it before. We're essentially infovores, Nick, right? It's like we are just trying to consume because we don't want to make mistakes, and the information is out there. And our goal has always been, we want the best, most specific, relevant answer to our question as quickly as possible online. Like, that's what it's been for basically now 20-ish years. And the search engines have done, essentially evolved, towards this. But now with AI, we're seeing a really, really big shift. If you think about it, we had the luxury of this thing called Google, specifically Google Search and Google Paid for 20 years, Nick. I mean, and you could do it. I mean, HubSpot built an entire brand really on just going after the keywords and the searches and the questions that people had.
Get on page one at the top for as many keywords as possible in that market, right?
That was it. Getting on page one in terms of search rankings today doesn't mean squat. For a couple different reasons. Number one, I mean, it's amazing. You can be ranked number one in Google search, and it takes 3 to 4 scrolls down the page to see whoever's number one. And that's because you might have your AI summary. You're going to have some sponsored searches. You might have some related questions. You might have some video showing. It's like all these things. And then finally, you've got number one. So whereas in the past, when we started this game with Google, 80% roughly of all people clicked on the first result on the left side of the page. Now, you can be the first ranked number one result, and a very low percentage are even going to click on you. And many people aren't clicking at all, because now we've got zero click, which of course is, I got my answer, but I didn't have to click on one of those blue links. And furthermore, because we're starting to see the demise, if you will, of SEO, and companies seeing their traffic go down. Not all companies, but many companies are seeing their traffic. I mean, HubSpot being one of them, Riverpools
Sure.
being another one of them, right?
Yeah.
Seeing their
We've
traffic
heard
go.
those headlines with the
Yeah,
algorithm updates, the rise of
yeah,
these LLMs. Yeah.
that's exactly right. So you see the traffic going down, and now they're getting more desperate to use paid. But the problem with paid is that it's becoming more competitive and you're having to pay more to get less results. Do you know how many companies I've talked to this year alone, Nick, that have told me that they are paying more than they've ever paid when it came to Google Ads and they're getting less than they've ever gotten?
I imagine it's a
Huh.
lot.
It's a lot, man. And I'm telling you what, here's what's crazy, Nick. Most don't know what to do about it.
That's what I'm saying. What do they do? This is the old school playbooks. This is what we've been taught. It took us this long to even get to that. Spending
Yeah.
money on ads, getting content out. You've evangelized and we helped,
Yep.
for years create that culture of content, but it's not getting us towards the goals that we were told we were supposed to get towards now. What do we do?
No, you've got to, you really have to up your game more than ever. I mean, the future is primarily based on signals and signals that we're sending out to three parties. So for 20-ish years, we've had to win two parties. First party, we always had to win with the signals that we were sending out were our customers and potential customers, right? That's never going to change. All
Sure.
right. So we're going to have to continue to win them over and send the right signals and get recommended by our customers for others. So that's built to last. Then the second one that we just talked about is for 20 plus years, we've tried to send out the signals through traditional SEO, for example, so
Mhm.
that search engines like Google recommended us. Okay. Now, that ship is sailing certainly to a degree, and there's a lot of debate about this. I'm on the other side of many SEOs in that I am saying that if you build your house on Google and Google search today, you're going to be screwed in 5 to 10 years. Okay. So that's the second party that we've had to please over the course of the last 20 years. And we still need to please them today, and we still need to be recommended by them today. But there's someone that's coming that's much, much, much more important, and that's AI recommendations. That's the big third. And really, the future of search is going to be you, me, us going to AI and saying, I want to know this. And they give us an answer, and we got the answer. And the question is, did AI recommend your company? Did they recommend my company? Did they recommend somebody else? That's the big question. If you can't be recommended by AI in the future, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So you got to send out the signals that would make them want to recommend you. And these essentially are trust signals. And the good thing is, if you build your business around trust, then you've got something there, Nick, that's built to last. It's not going
Yes.
away. Right. This is trust is going to be fundamental to your business in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Now, what's not are platforms. Platforms are going to come and go.
And they
Facebook
have.
will
Yeah.
come and go. Google will come and go. ChatGPT will come and go. So you got to continue to play the trust game on the platforms that you're given.
Mhm.
Now, the reason why we did this book and the reason why I wanted to really take the Ask You Answer and systematize it better, all right, with a clearer plan,
Mhm.
was because I knew that there had to be a roadmap, and we built this book upon 4 pillars, and we call it the 4 pillars of a known and trusted brand. And if you follow these 4 pillars, then you'll get recommended by those 3 things that we just talked about: by the customer, by the traditional search engine, and by the new AI search, which is going to be such a massive deal going forward. So the 4 pillars.
What are
So
they? Yes.
all right. So, what are the 4 pillars? Now, I'm going to say these, Nick, and a lot of people hearing them would say, that sounds pretty basic. And you know what? The magic is always in the basic, yet
Yes.
most people don't do it. Okay.
That's
So, here
right.
we go. Pillar number 1 of a known and trusted brand is you got to be willing to say online what other folks are not willing to say in your space. So, I would ask your listeners, Nick, what are you saying right now online? What are you talking about online that at least 95% of your competitors are not willing to talk about?
A
Okay.
terrifying question to answer for many companies.
Yeah. One of the examples in the book, and you'll appreciate this one because it's a Boston, Mass example. I
Amen.
start endless customers off with the amazing story of Steve Scheinkopf of Yale Appliance. So Yale Appliance is a kitchen appliance retailer in the Boston, Mass area.
Oh, yeah.
He came to me
Famous.
like, yeah, yeah. I mean, they're now very famous, right?
Mhm.
Especially
Expanded to
throughout.
multiple
Yeah.
branches and stuff. They've
Yes.
grown a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. So Steve came to me, it was probably about 12, 13 years ago now, Nick, and he said, Marcus, I've been reading your stuff and I wanna, I wanna get more known, and I want this online thing to work, but we're just not getting the traction that I feel like we should be. So, like, what do we need to do? And I looked at his content, and I looked at what he was doing. I said, Steve, you're making the same mistake that so many make, is you're not truly addressing what buyers want to know. You're not saying what others
Right.
aren't willing to say.
They
Okay.
see a keyword they want to talk about, and I'll talk about
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
And so he said, "Okay." And I said, "What?" He's like, "What do I need to do?" Well, I said, "You need to lean into this thing called they ask you answer. You need to become obsessed with what your buyers are searching, but what your competitors don't want to say." And of course, there's a bunch of those, but one of the majors has to do with we call it the big five in the book, and that hasn't changed from they ask you answer. And these are the five subjects that buyers are obsessed with that businesses don't want to talk about. And the five subjects are, and I'll blow through them real quick. I'm going to give you an example from Steve that will just
No,
blow
they're
your mind.
important. Everybody listen up. If you haven't heard
Yeah.
this, this is everything. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the five subjects are, as buyers and consumers, we want to know number one, cost and price. Roughly, how much is it? Number two, we want to understand problems, fears, and objections. In other words, we need those addressed. So we'll call them problems, but essentially they're the pushback fears that everybody has, like, oh, how could this go wrong? Okay. Number three, comparisons. We're obsessed with comparisons. We constantly compare things online. Number four, reviews. The thing about reviews, we don't just want the good reviews, we want the good, the bad, and the ugly reviews. And finally, number five, best. Best, most, top, etc. Okay, so anything that represents a ranking system extreme. I mean, if anybody's listening to this right now, like think about how many times you've gone online and searched best plus another phrase. I mean, it's just, you've done it probably thousands of times at
Yeah.
this
And
point,
I can
right?
think of how traditionally hard it is to find all of these items from any given vendor in
That's
an easy
it,
way.
Nick. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, buyers freaking wanna know it, right? So
Just tell
so
me.
vendors like, "I'll
Yeah.
tell you when I meet with you face to face," which only pisses off buyers.
Right.
And so one of the questions that Steve Scheinkoff would get all the time was, "So what are, like, the most reliable, least serviced appliance brands that you sell?" So this is number 5 of the big 5, which is the best. Okay, so most reliable, least serviced, like I said, it means any ranking system.
And if you make
And
money on services, you'd be like, we don't want to talk about that. We
yeah,
want them to
right,
get whatever they want. Yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah.
Steve said, "I got a choice. I could openly talk about our least and our most serviced brands, or I could ignore it. If I talk about it, I could piss off our manufacturers, the OEMs,
Right.
like the Bosches and the
Yeah. You talking
KitchenAids of the
smack about
world."
my
Right,
dishwasher now? Telling people
right.
they got to service it a lot? Thought
So,
we were
or
partners. Yeah.
yeah, right. Or I can give the buyer, the consumer, what they want. He chose the buyer. And he created, and the first time he did it was 2017, and now it's a yearly thing, and it gets hundreds of thousands of views a year. I mean, it's a big deal, and it's the least service, most reliable appliance brands of that year. The first year he put this out in text format, it was read 50,000 times a month for a year straight.
Jeez. Consumer Reports, eat your heart out.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
50,000 times a month. And did the vendors get pissed? Yeah, and what Steve said is, "Listen, you just need to improve because I have the data. I'm
I'm
not
telling the
saying anything
truth.
bad. I'm just showing
Yeah.
the data. And,
Yeah.
and the data is the data,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, and like I said, he's got the list out in 2025. You can find it right now. Bottom line is, when Steve started this process, he was a $30 million business, and today he's above $150 million, and
Amazing.
he's known all over the country as one of the major thought leaders, gatekeepers, trusted advisors of all things kitchen appliance. It's extraordinary, but that's the essence of being willing to say what others in your space aren't willing to say. That's pillar number one. Okay.
Love it.
Pillar number two is being willing to show with video what others in your space aren't willing to show. Now, in the book, Endless Customers, which, by the way, you can find it at endlesscustomers.com. So if you're listening to
Yes.
this, make sure that's the link you go to,
Got mine
endlesscustomers.com.
on
It's going to be
pre-order,
on
baby.
Amazon too, but
Come on now.
endlesscustomers.com.
Yep.
And show what others aren't willing to show with video. And there's a lot of different examples of this, and we give a bunch of examples of this in the book, a couple different frameworks. But just one I wanted to mention was just for my pool company, which is to me, it's a funny one. When we had so much success doing They Ask You Answer with my pool company, that, we went from near bankruptcy in 2008 to the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world, similar to Yale Appliance, right? I mean, that River Pools was the first case study for this. And then as we grew, we started manufacturing pools because I was like, we got leads all over the country now.
Right.
And as
And
we
that's
were
when I came to know you, sidebars. I said,
that's
this
right.
guy's incredibly successful practicing in his own business.
Yeah, eating my own
Blah,
dog
blah.
food, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's always going to be the case. And so I as we started manufacturing these pools, one of the first series of videos we created was an 8-part series that were on average 10 minutes long. So we got about 80 minutes of video that we put online that showed our entire manufacturing process, Nick. I mean, like, if you wanted to start manufacturing pools, fiberglass pools tomorrow, this is where you would start. And
Right.
I literally had competitors that reach out and said, "Why are you making these videos showing how you make your pools?
Right.
Don't you realize
Right.
that's proprietary?"
Yeah.
And I just
The
laughed.
customer's not trying to build the pool, you know?
No,
Yeah.
no, no. I
But they
mean,
want to
it's just
know
so
what's
funny.
going into what they're buying.
Exactly. One company that's good with this is Geek Squad, and they
Mm.
fix computers and stuff. And
Yeah.
and somebody asked their CEO one time, like, "Why do you show people how to repair the things you repair?" And he said, "Don't you realize our number one customer is the one that tries to do it themselves, right?"
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, if you come from this place of scarcity, you can't imagine talking about these things or showing these things. But if you come from this place of abundance, all of a sudden it becomes very, very easy. And you're like, of course we need to do that. It makes so much sense. So that's number two. Show what others aren't willing to show. All
Do you
right.
need a big production company for that, Marcus?
Oh, good point. Good question. You do not, man. And in fact, the future is really simplicity. You're seeing more and more influencers out there with highly successful YouTube channels that are leaning towards less Hollywood, less production, right? More raw, more real, more
That's what I'm
human,
seeing,
right? I
for
mean,
sure.
that's what people want. And I think too with AI is going to create this. And well, AI is going to do a lot of things, probably good, bad, and ugly. I mean, it's going to be a whole mix. Because of AI, there's going to be this thing called the reality paradox. And the reality paradox is when everything we see online, we won't know if it's real. In other words, we won't know if it really happened. If
Right.
is this AI generated, or is this actually like something that happened? And I'm already starting to see this with my different YouTube channels. I mean, I've got a fishing channel, and people say to me sometimes, "That's AI," and I'm like, "What the freak are you talking about? It's not
Yeah.
AI." But
It's a
that's
sea bass.
yeah, yeah, right, right. They don't make fish that big. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hello, ding dong. You can
Yeah.
Google this, right?"
Yeah.
But
Come fish with me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but what are you gonna what are you gonna do? And
Yeah.
so, this is why, we've really got to, be raw with the things that we show. Don't be overproduced, because what AI is going to do is going to make everything look and feel perfect. And actually, you don't want perfect. You don't want perfect in the conversation I'm having right now with you, right?
Mhm.
You don't want to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect, because that takes away the human edge about us, Nick.
Right.
So that's very, very important. Now, I hate to say it, but eventually AI will catch up to that too, and will intentionally be imperfect, just as humans are imperfect, just to make it feel even more human.
Oh yeah.
That being said, we've got a window, and lean into it. Lean into it. Now, number three pillar.
Yeah. Tell us about three.
This one is a mega trend, which is sell in ways others in your space aren't willing to sell.
Hmm.
Now, everybody thinks they have like this unique special sales methodology and
Oh
process.
yeah, man.
Nick,
Just
you've
wait till
seen
you
it for
get into
years.
my proposal meeting. Wait till you get into
Yeah,
my explore call.
that's
It's an
right.
80% close from there, man.
I know
With
it,
the way I
man.
do it.
You nailed it, right? Can we really truly sell different? Well, one of the major stats that recently came out, and I was sent by Gartner, was 75% of all buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience.
Hello.
75% of all buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. So what does this mean? Well, I don't think it means we hate salespeople. It just means that we don't want to talk to a salesperson until we are very ready, until we're comfortable, until we're confident, until we feel like we're not going to make a mistake. Okay. And so, if this is true, what does it mean? Well, you can complain about it and kick against the pricks and say, "Oh gosh, this is a terrible thing." Or you can lean into it and say, "Okay, how do I take advantage of this mega trend?" And the way you take advantage of it is through offering self service, interactive tools, if you will, especially on your website, where someone can get an answer that traditionally they would have had to have gotten by talking with, quote, a human. But now, through this interactive experience with some type of AI or some type of app or whatever it is, they can get an answer that they're looking for. And I talk about 5 types of self-service tools in the book. And I'll give you just a couple quick examples right now, Nick.
Please.
One major type of self-service tool is a self-scheduling tool for salespeople. And what I mean by this is, and Steve at Yale Appliance does this, as a matter of fact. So Steve knows that there's different ways that people might want to schedule time in the showroom with a salesperson, a designer. Okay. First way, they can just walk right in and they can be given one. Second way, they can call the store and schedule time with one. But the third way, and this is the magic right here, Nick, is you can go to the website and you can click on schedule time with a salesperson. Now, in and of itself, that doesn't sound very fascinating. But here's where it gets wild, Nick, is when you do that, you'll see on the screen all the salespeople that you can choose from. You'll see their
Yes.
faces. You can read their bios. You might see a video about them. And so now you choose which of these people would you like to work with. And here's what we've seen. And we've tested this in other industries now, and it's wild. This is what we know.
And that's
That will
impossible, what you're describing, like, in the first 2 options. You cannot go, not them, please,
Yeah,
give me the
yeah.
other person."
Like,
You
once
never
you
do
walk
that.
in, they give you the one, you're not gonna be like, "Well, that was I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't wanna work with someone that was 6'10", right?" It's like,
yeah,
"Okay,
yeah.
but, that's what you've been given."
Right.
So, now that's when you have this control, what we've seen over and over, closing rates double, double, all because the person felt like, "I made the decision." It goes back to sunk cost fallacy, similar to relationships, right? You know how this works, Nick, right? It's like people will if they put a lot into something, they try to find a way to make it work.
Yes.
You see it with relationships.
Yes.
You see it with, like, maybe you started on this degree in your university, and you're like, but I've already put in a year, of studies, and I don't want to lose a year. Sunk cost fallacy. You
Mhm.
ain't gonna be happy in the future. It's not gonna go away.
Right.
Sunk cost fallacy. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is what we see. So when someone sinks more time and they're more invested, now all of a sudden they just become more aligned with the company, more connected to it. Trust builds. It's really magical. Now, let me give you another example of
Please.
an incredibly powerful uh, self-service tool, and I call it self-pricing, which is essentially allowing people to come to your website and get an estimate for your services. Now, I'm not saying a quote. I'm saying an estimate, which is very different, Nick. And this is important. So imagine this. You go to somebody's website, and you can do this at the River Pools website right now because we were the first major fiberglass pool manufacturer in the world that had a build and price your pool tool on our website, even as a manufacturer. So we're B2B to C because we sell to the pool builder who then sells to the homeowner. So it's B2B to C, right? So in this case, people would say, well, you can't really have any type of pricing calculator because you don't set the end price. I'm like, of course we can have one. That's why it's an estimator. And so how it works is the number one question that people have when they're considering buying anything, problem, service, etc., is roughly what is this going to cost me? It's the first question they have once they know they have the problem or the need. And so most companies provide zero for that, and it kills them. It just kills conversions. And so if you have an estimator that asks a series of questions, just like if I called you up today, Nick, and I said, "Hey man, I'm thinking about, using you, and as a consultant, to help me grow my business. Could you give me a sense for how much this might cost?" Now, the obvious answer is it depends,
Yep.
but you would say, "Well, obviously that depends, but I can at least give you a sense." And
Right.
you'd ask a series of questions.
Right. And what are the factors or the levers that might make it go up or down?
Correct.
Yeah.
And after they answered those, then you would say, "Well, based on what you just said there, Marcus, I think you'd be somewhere in the range of X to Y," right? And I'd
Yep.
say, "Okay, great, that's helpful." And then we continue our conversation until we got to the point of, like, you gave me an actual proposal, right? At the
But you wanted
end.
to know if we were even in the ballpark
Are
to
we in the
start.
game?
And if we haven't established that, it's all we're ever thinking in the back of our
That's
minds.
correct.
Yeah.
That is the thief in the night that steals our ability to connect because it's lingering like a
Mhm.
bad fart, right?
Yes.
So
Oh,
this is so this is
like
the type of thing that so many companies just don't understand the psychology of it. So I started a software company last year called PriceGuide.ai. And what
God.ai.
yeah, and what it does, it allows any business, especially service-based businesses, to create a pricing estimator that they can quickly and easily put on their website. And here's what we've seen, because now I've got a few hundred customers. It's blowing up. It's been really cool. I never,
Congrats.
never,
It's
never
awesome.
thought I'd be a SaaS guy,
Right.
especially with AI, but I'm a SaaS guy. What the heck happened?
Yep.
Anyway, here's what we
You
found.
hung around long enough. You got a little bit
It
on
just
your
zapped
shirt,
me
Yeah.
over and over again. Yeah,
Yep.
I wanted
Yep.
that reoccurring revenue. Right.
That's it. The MRR. Yep.
So what's fascinating is when a company does this over and over again, we see a 3x on their conversions. So in other words, if you're getting 5 leads from your website a week right now, if you put a pricing estimator on your homepage and you have a message on it that says something like get instant estimate, you and with a call to action says get instant estimate, and then they click on it and then they get that estimate at the end. You're going to see 15 leads a week instead of 5 leads a week. And it's been crazy, man. I mean, I get so many comments on this, and the churn rate for SaaS products.
Sure.
My churn rate right now is 0.77, 0.77. It's less than 1%.
That's
Okay,
enviable. Yeah.
which is pretty dope.
Yeah.
And so that's because once someone puts an estimator on their site, they become addicted to the leads. And they're
Right.
just like, holy cow, why was I not doing this before? So this is a mega trend. I think every service-based business, for the most part, is going to have some type of estimator on their website within the next 5 years. And that's why I make a fuss about it, because I do think it's a very, very big deal.
hmm Well, you've talked about a couple of different pillars and trends, and each one of these items, Marcus, I want to drive home. It's easier to do than you think. The video part,
Yes.
it's be natural, be yourself, use your own phone. The pricing piece, you don't need to have a company build you a custom calculator and then have to maintain it and tweak it all
No,
the time.
this
Yeah.
tool costs $200 a year, Nick.
Yeah.
I mean, you make that
To get
generally like off your first lead that closes, which is
right,
usually probably a week. It's like
right.
it's crazy. So it's
Yeah.
like to your point, you don't have to spend money to be extraordinary. In fact, the smaller you are, oftentimes, the more you can be a digital David in a land of Goliaths. You can make your own rules. You can slay the giants, which is really, really fun. I mean, what
Yeah.
is more fun than that? You don't have to get it approved through the board or some freaking attorney. You can just send it, baby.
Yeah.
YOLO. I love that mindset.
Well, doesn't that tie into your final pillar then as we ride out here? Be more human than others are willing to be. How can we
Be more
be
human.
that in this tech-driven world, Marcus, you're talking about?
Yeah, it's like, if I say Colonel Sanders, you think KFC, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. And there's a lot of people we could name where there's a face behind the brand. I think we're getting to the point where we've always wanted to buy from those we know, like, and trust, but now we want to buy from those we know, like, and trust, and we can see their face. And ideally, there's a face behind your brand. So if you're listening to this right now, I'd ask you, who's the public face that people think of when they think about your brand? Because if there's not one, there should be one. And
Yes.
that's why you, as a leader, you need to get from behind the desk and behind the camera to in front of the camera and put yourself out there, because your personal brand is going to be much more powerful than your company brand online 9 out of 10 times. And so that's the direction that you need to go.
hmm Well, Marcus, I totally believe in this final point, and you've been a big supporter of me hanging my shingle out here in this venture. And that's honestly at the heart of no matter what services I talk about, or if I say I help you do webinars or whatever, I'm really trying to enable business owners to get their faces out there. And
That's it.
sometimes they need an MC to give them a podium to introduce them to make sure that they can take care of what's going to happen before that part, what's going to happen about after that part, who can neutralize the technology barriers that they're facing, logistical barriers. But it's all about get yourself on camera, dude. Get your story out there.
For those that are listening, I can attest to Nick, myself. The guy is obsessed with winning and producing a winning product for his
Yes.
customers. And so, man, I appreciate you having me on. And again, I love what you're doing and grateful for this journey that I've had with the Ask You Answer Now endless customers. It's been a crazy
Yes.
ride,
It's been awesome.
but again, if you're listening to this, you want to get the book, Go to
Endlesscustomers.com, right?
endlesscustomers.com. That's the
And
place
that's
to
the
go.
best place to get to pre-order the book, is it not, Marcus? You
Yeah,
got some
that's the
goodies
best
over there
place to
for
get the
them.
book. Absolutely. Yep,
Yep.
that's exactly right. And if you're listening to this too, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm a good follow there,
Please.
and I put my best stuff there. So, Nick, thank you
I
so much, dude.
thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts and your story with us, Marcus. What you put out, and I'm a big follower, of what you do, inspires me, and I know inspires others who follow me as well. So keep it up, man. And I cannot wait to get my copy of Endless Customers and just to book club it with my audience here, and to chat with you guys about it over at Impact.
Appreciate you, brother.
Awesome.